Hi, my name is Shannon. If you have somehow stumbled upon my channel, welcome. Thank you for being here. Now, I didn't expect my first video on this channel to be about Bridgerton, but I have so many thoughts and feelings about the show that had been bubbling up inside of me and that I want to get out and that I want to share. So that is what we're going to be doing today. I am going to give you a bit of an overview as to why I've loved it so much, and then we're going to go through scene by scene, at least my favorite scenes, and I'm going to walk you through them and share my interpretations and my thoughts as we go along. I will also be including timestamps if you would like to skip forward if you see that your favorite scenes are mentioned. Just as a disclaimer, I'm really only going to be talking about Colin and Penelope. They were the absolute highlights of the show for me, and I truly believe that Nicola and Luke deserve all of the praise and attention that they're getting. I also have a feeling that this video is going to end up being a lot longer than it needs to be, but oh well, I'm excited to talk about it. On that note, I will absolutely be sharing spoilers in this video, so if you have not seen the show yet and you don't want to be spoiled, please skip this video. Now, I haven't read any of the books yet. I've found in the past that if I read a book first and then go and watch its adaptation after, whether that be an adaptation to a TV show or a movie, I've been really disappointed. I've found that it's better for me to watch the adaptation first and then to go back and read the book afterwards, because I can basically go into the adaptation without any prior bias, and then reading the book afterwards feels like a completely separate experience to me. If I do it the opposite way, I often find that there are a lot of things lacking. I find myself really missing the emotional depth and the connection between the characters that I feel like we can only really get with books, because with books we have access to the characters' inner thoughts and the descriptions that I find adaptations often can't translate well. And so with Bridgerton, I decided that I would wait until quite a few seasons came out, and then perhaps I would go back and read the books. So considering that I have not read Colin and Penelope's book so far, I feel like I don't even need to at this point. To me, Luke and Nicola have done such an amazing job with their acting. I feel like I can sense the kind of depth that I really only usually experience with books. It's like I've been able to experience the characters' thoughts through their glances, the moments of silence, the most minute changes in their expressions. For the first time, it feels like a novel come to life, with all of its richness and complexity intact, the chemistry and the passion so real, made even better because I get to see it. Watching these 4 episodes to me has honestly felt reminiscent of reading a YA romance book as a teenager. I have felt the same butterflies, smiled like an idiot watching the characters laugh together, but with the addition of the quality, absolutely impeccable smut that so satisfies my adult self. So I've read a ton of romance books, and I've definitely read my fair share of the friends to lovers trope, but I don't know, I haven't been completely satisfied with it up until this point. Now, season 3, part 1 of Bridgerton has been such a blast for me to watch because I've loved their portrayal of the trope so far. Why have I loved it so much? I have a few main reasons. One, I absolutely love the fact that Colin had no idea Penelope had feelings for him up until the carriage scene. In his head, truly, Pen only ever saw him as a friend. I feel like it's so different with Unrequited Love when the guy only starts to see her differently and start to develop feelings for her when he learns about her feelings first, or vice versa. Colin and Penelope's relationship feels so special to me because with friendship as their foundation, they fell in love with each other separately. They realized and accepted their feelings for each other on their own with no outside influence. Well, I guess Violet is an exception, but she's an exception because Colin had no idea that she was pushing him in the right direction anyways. But with essentially no outside influence, and then their love brought them together in the end. Now, Lord Dougling. He definitely wasn't perfect, but I love the fact that overall he was a pretty decent guy. He was kind, he had an understated sense of humor, he encouraged Pen to be her real and authentic self around him, he was honest with her about his expectations for marriage, and I truly believe that if he didn't die during his voyage through the Northwest Passage and make Pen an early widow, they would have had an amicable marriage full of, if not love, then at least compassion and respect for each other. And given the outside couples that we've seen in Bridgerton, It could be worse. In some romance I've read, with the exception of the hardcore love triangles for the most part, the main male character's rival love interest ends up having a major flaw of some sort. He's either manipulative or abusive, or he's just not a great person in general. For some cases, it works. It works for the overall plot, it works for the main character's development, but in some cases it just doesn't for me. In some cases for me, it makes it seem like one of the reasons why the main female character chooses to be with the main male character is because the rival love interest has a flaw of some sort, not just because the main male character is the one that she truly loves and the one that she truly wants. And sometimes we as fans even dig to trash that love interest to prove the main couple's stability. But is it not enough that the main couple loves each other and each other only? I don't know. To me, it cheapens the rivalry, and it also cheapens the jealousy and the pining I so enjoy watching or reading about, because of course she was never going to end up with the other guy anyways. So for Devling to be a decent guy, despite the fact that he would have left Penn often if they had been married, it makes Colin and Penelope's feelings for each other shine so bright to me. Their connection is so strong, truly infallible, even when faced with a perfectly acceptable rival. Also, the fact that Colin was so desperate to find a flaw in Lord Devling, but couldn't time and time again, was absolutely priceless and so fun to watch. You could totally tell in the carriage scene that Colin had thought that Devling's travels was it, that he had found the solution to all of his problems, but when Penn shut him down in that aspect, he was absolutely about to use Devling's vegetarianism as an excuse. But he knew it was groundless, and that frustrated him to no end, because at the end of the day, there was no good reason for Penelope not to marry Lord Devling, and Colin knew that there was a very, very real chance that he was going to lose his chances with her forever. If not, of course, for the simple fact that Penn loved Colin and Colin alone, and always had, but of course he didn't know that yet. I personally don't feel like their relationship was rushed at all, and I also feel like Colin pined for and worked for Penelope more than enough. It's easy for Colin to choose to pursue Penn romantically because his romantic feelings stem from and are made stronger by the years of genuine affection and love that already exists between them. He was Penn's best friend and biggest supporter for years. It's so obvious to me how much he values their friendship, and I truly feel like he earned her trust and her affections over and over again. And once the romance came about, we saw him pining for weeks on end. Literally every damn time he saw her. Now, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure if you were to count, the number of scenes that we see Colin pining for Penelope outweigh the other way around, even including scenes from seasons 1 and 2. And even if that's not true, to me, Colin's pining feels like enough because he absolutely plunges into his love for Penelope without a single glance backward, and all but screams it to the world with every single longing look. And there were a lot of looks. There were a lot. I, like many fans have been saying, am personally so tired of the tortured male characters who are afraid to face their emotions, much less process them, and who essentially run away from attachment every chance they get and end up hurting the ones who love them in the process. It's what makes Colin such a refreshing and delightful character for me to watch. He was already emotionally intelligent in seasons 1 and 2, though definitely not without his flaws or his hiccups along the way for sure. He is, at the end of the day, still a young man just trying to figure out his way in the world. And it's not that he was purposefully trying to ignore or deny his true wants. I truly think that he just didn't know what those were yet until his relationship with Penn started to develop romantically. And once things did start to feel off, he took the time to self-reflect and try to understand the emotions that he was feeling and why exactly he was feeling them. He does that inner work all by himself. Still have to give a shout out to Violet though, because he knows that doing so will allow him to enjoy his life to its fullest extent as his truest self. Once he drops the armor and ditches the fake persona he'd been wearing, he becomes completely in tune with his emotions, knows exactly what it is that he wants, and is determined to do his damn best to get it. So for me, it was 100% in character for Colin to shift gears and take action with Penn so quickly. It would have been odd and disappointing and a rehash of the first 2 seasons if you hadn't. I now want to go through and rewatch some of my favorite scenes that I have been rewatching non-stop, and I will be sharing with you some of my thoughts as we go along. Starting with episode 1, the first time Penn and Colin talk after Colin's return.
Penn, it is good to see you.
Is it? As you said, sometimes time moves rather quickly.
I feel like it was in this moment, combined with the fact that Penelope hadn't been replying to Colin's letters, that things between them began to really shift. For me, this is when Colin's perception of Penelope begins to really change. Up until that point, she had always been this constant, unmoving figure in his life. Something he was confident would never change, confident that he would never lose the warmth and the quiet affection between them, also made possible by the fact that Penelope didn't have any marriage prospects and was on the track to never marry. Once he sees Penn starting to pull away from him, he starts to look at her a little bit closer, because the notion of her pulling away from him, it scares him, and it surprises him how much it scares him, but he doesn't know exactly what that can mean yet. Ugh, she looks so good. He's stunned, absolutely stunned. At the Danbury Ball, Colin's perception of Penelope has definitely already shifted because of her dismissiveness towards him, but you can tell that he's thinking to himself, wow, she looks so beautiful, with a bit more depth and feeling than he's probably ever thought it before.
Late night. Penn, she did not look well, did she? Do excuse me, just a moment.
Yes, go get your girl. Go check on her.
Something wrong? Penn, between us, I mean.
I overheard you at my mama's ball last season. It just never occurred to me that you, of all people, could be so cruel.
He deserved to hear that, and I'm glad that she said it. In this scene, Penelope is obviously upset, rightly so, given what Colin had said about her in season 2, and she lashes out at him. What I love about this scene is that instead of Colin rising to the bait and starting a fight, he just looks confused and concerned and wants to know what's going on between them. He doesn't want the tension between them to grow any further, and so he asks her about it directly. He is a man of action, and I absolutely love him for that. I also really expected this to be drawn out a bit longer, and I'm really glad that Penelope brought it up when she did here in episode 1 pretty early on, instead of letting it spiral. It just goes to show that communication is going to be a solid foundation for their relationship moving forward.
I'm sorry for intruding.
His outfits this season, he looks so good.
I'm very sorry for my callous comment here last year.
Good man.
And I'm most certainly not ashamed of you, because I know you will lift my spirits and make me see the world in ways I could not have imagined.
It's so beautiful.
I am proud to call you my very good friend.
Once again, Colin is a man of action. He wastes essentially no time in seeking Penelope out to apologize to her. I feel like you can really see in this scene how regretful he is, and also how much he's reflected on his actions. His sincerity shines, and it is beautiful to me. I also love the fact that we see Colin expressing how much he cares for Penelope to her face pretty often. I mean, how could she not fall for him?
I'm decidedly late.
Colin's attempt to fit in with society's expectations of him, becoming a rake and sleeping with women for the physical pleasure, honestly didn't bother me that much. Did they need to show it as explicitly as they did? Probably not. I think there were enough nods to it, even beyond the writing in his journal, but I think it added a lot of layers to his character. It was out of character, and that was literally the point. He was trying to convince himself that he was something he was not, that he never truly would be, and to me, it makes his realizing his feelings for Penelope more meaningful in a way, because in that process, he begins to understand himself better than he ever had before. He finally understands and accepts his dislikes, his wants, his desires. He comes to understand that he is truly a romantic at the core and needs an emotional connection to fully enjoy the physical pleasure.
Imagine what you would want to say to me if I were a suitor, without concerning yourself with how I might receive it.
This man is forever digging his own grave.
Yet somehow they shine even brighter when you are kind. I might say something like that if you were a suitor.
She makes him so nervous. It's so cute. So obviously Penn's comment about his eyes absolutely stuns him. You can see the shock, the small, barely there spark of joy it incites, and the hurried sip of tea right after is so comical and so endearing to me. I just love this scene. The intrusive thoughts one.
No, I did not mean to.
You did not mean to pick up my journal and read it.
This feels like a scene out of a K-drama to me. His fingers curled. He was holding her hand.
Your writing is very good.
Yes, it is.
Perhaps we should pause for the day.
So in this scene, it's our first time really seeing Colin angry with Penelope, right? Yeah. He may have been a little snappy with her regarding Marina before. I can't remember. Anyways, at least in this season, this is the first time we really see him getting angry with Penn, which I find is refreshing and adds another layer to the relationship. Of course they're gonna have disagreements, of course they're gonna bicker, especially when one of them has so obviously done something wrong to the other. She shouldn't have snooped, it's true. But I do think it's cute that Colin is mad for all about 2 seconds, because when he's tending to her wound, you can see him really warring with these new and confusing feelings that he's experiencing because of her. And when she compliments his writing, it's like those feelings threaten to overflow, but he doesn't know where they come from. He doesn't know what they are exactly yet. And so he starts to pull away because of that. And when she compliments his writing, it's like those feelings threaten to overflow, but he can't name them yet. He doesn't know exactly what they are yet or where they come from. And so he starts to pull away because of that. That little smile.
But you truly write so well. You make it seem effortless, which is so difficult to do. Would very much like to read more one day.
He's eating it up.
Lord Basilio is a Viscount.
And you are Penelope Featherington. Do not forget that.
Penn so often downplays herself, and Colin just as often catches her and corrects her on it. He never plays into her self-deprecation, and I just think it's so cute.
Miss Featherington. It is a fine evening, is it not?
The way his smile drops so quickly.
Do you? I must admit I do quite enjoy Whistledown.
Oh my god, he hates it, but has to pretend he doesn't.
Well, that is excellent. Do you like him? I'm certain he did as well.
It is rather unseemly.
So Penn talks to Lord Remington, Colin sees it, and his smile drops instantly. He watches the entire time they talk and sees for the first time Penn enjoying and actually feeling comfortable in talking to a potential love match. His head tilt as he's watching her speaks volumes, and I think this is one of the scenes where Luke's acting really shines for me. Through that movement, we know that Colin does not like what he sees, but doesn't know exactly why he doesn't like it yet. It's almost like he's thinking to himself, when I said to be yourself, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean for you to act the same way you do with me around other men. I mean, Jealous by Nick Jonas is literally playing in the background. This man was 100,000% down bad for Penn before the kiss.
Pardon me, what are you whispering about?
Hot, the way he just steps forward.
What could Penelope possibly have done to warrant such maltreatment?
Hot, once again. Her maid is the ultimate wingwoman.
A sad, stupid girl who believes she might possibly have a chance of love.
You must not say such things.
Once again, she's self-deprecating and he hates to see it.
Do you kiss me?
I could watch the stunned look on his face after that kiss 1,000 times over and never get tired of it. I have to admit, this is one scene that I really had to go back and rewatch a few times for me to understand it completely, I guess. When I watched it for the first time, I didn't really get Penn's motives. I wasn't really understanding why she would want to ask Colin to kiss her. In my head, and if that were me, that would make moving on from him that much harder. But after rewatching it a few times, I feel like I could really understand this scene a lot better. I saw someone say on Twitter that this scene, for Penelope, it was closure, but for Colin, it was just a beginning, and that is 100% so true. By the time Pen asks for the kiss, she truly has lost all hope. She has no idea that asking for the kiss would cause Colin to spiral in the way that he does. She gives up on him, well and truly decides to move on, and Colin loses his damn mind. And the kiss itself, his hand touching her face, the initial peck, the pull back and mutual decision to deepen it, Colin's furrowed brow as if he's realizing how much he's enjoying it, how much it is exactly what he's been looking for but didn't know what it was until it was placed right in front of him. So beautiful and so well done. Penelope's thank you and Colin's stunned expression after she's left him absolutely screamed to me that the floodgates have been fully opened and there is just nothing that he can do to stop it. The way I was absolutely convinced that this was Penelope's dream in the beginning. First time watching that scene, I definitely thought it was Pen's dream at first, and I was a little disappointed because it seemed to me like she had taken 2 steps back in her quest to get over Colin, but the fact that it's his dream with all of that romantic lighting, he is a man written by a woman 1,000 times over. The amount of times I have rewatched this scene, absolutely unhealthy.
No sooner did my head touch the pillow that I was met with complete and immediate darkness. Not even a dream. Yes. She is,
The way he's like fidgeting with his fingers.
old families, of course.
His voice cracks a little bit. The mere mention of Penelope's name has him so flustered, and it's just adorable to see a man that's usually so composed and well-spoken, ruffled, stumbling over his words in front of his family who knows him so well and can obviously tell that something is wrong. I can only imagine that in his head, he's analyzing all of the bits and pieces of the puzzle that was the last few weeks, now completely illuminated by his kiss with Penelope, and thinking to himself, oh shit, I understand now. I get it. But of course, more elegantly worded than that. Once again, shout out to Pen's maid.
It is for the better that you did not.
Is it?
Isn't it?
It is.
Her face.
I agree.
Good.
Just so I'm clear, what is your reasoning?
Oh my god.
Yes, but Yes.
It's so good.
In fact, it may be best if we keep our distance for now.
Oh, of course.
Oh my gosh. His disappointment is tangible.
Well, I wish very much for your happiness.
Thank you. If I secure a proposal, it will be because of you.
I find myself coming back to the willow tree scene just as much as, if not more, than the carriage scene, honestly. The awkwardness, the uncertainty, the little pauses in their conversation, which is usually so smooth between the two of them, it's just all so endearing to me, and I cannot get enough of it. Colin definitely has different intentions going into the scene than Penelope does. He is overwhelmed by how happy he is to see her, and also so flustered, which is very unlike him, and he absolutely knows it. In this scene, Penelope says 3 things that Colin probably never wanted to hear. She says that it was for the best that he did not come to see her earlier, that their lesson should end, and that they should probably keep their distance for now. So Colin obviously dislikes all of these notions immensely, but all he can do is stand there and awkwardly agree because Pen has made it so clear that their kiss was a one-time thing and that it was never going to happen again. But what really kills me about this scene, and what is arguably my favorite part of it, is when Colin says, "I wish very much for your happiness." The sincerity in that line was deafening. And Pen looks like she could almost cry from hearing it. For me, this is where Nicola's acting really stands out, because you can tell that Pen is thinking to herself, this is yet another reason as to why I love him so much. From him saying that, she's gotten a reminder of her feelings for him. And that hurts. She can easily see herself hoping again. She essentially has to remind herself that that kindness that he shows to her will never fully be hers in the way that she wants, and that the compassion and gentle affection between them will never grow beyond being platonic. And so she essentially has to pull back in order to spare herself any more pain. Another favorite part of the scene for me is when Colin watches Penelope go, because the words bubbling underneath the surface are nearly tangible. He catches himself moving to follow after her, and then he lets out a breath. His shoulders drop, like it took every ounce of strength in him to agree with everything Pen said when he so obviously wanted the opposite.
You should know, I spoke to Penelope.
He 100% thought that Pen told Eloise about their kiss.
I see. Thank you for that. Excuse me.
That little interaction between Colin and Eloise is so reminiscent of high school love to me. It just feels so innocent, and it pulls at your heartstrings in the most endearing way.
Are you assessing your pupil?
How Pen does not feel him staring at her, I will never know. I'm a sucker for the pining. Give me 1,000 scenes of Colin staring longingly after Penelope, and I will watch every single one with joy. With unrequited friends to lovers stories where the girl is the one doing the pining for the majority, especially in the beginning, it is so satisfying to see the man looking absolutely tortured multiple times once he realizes his feelings for her. I ate up every single one of these scenes, and as you know by now, would and have and will continue to rewatch over and over again.
How are you?
I'm well.
Although you know Colin is dying to ask about Lord Debling, I love that he instead starts the conversation out with a "how are you?" He never pushes Pen to talk about things he knows she might be nervous about or perhaps isn't completely confident in, and he instead lets her bring up those things on her own terms.
Do you feel some attachment to him?
It is early.
He's so serious.
He is not unpleasant to gaze upon.
He hates it. He hates it so much. This scene right here was really well done. It could have been cheesy, but I think they did a good job. This scene fed something in me that I didn't even realize was hungry, I guess. Jealous Colin is so endearing to watch, and the fact that Pen is just completely oblivious to all of it makes it all the better.
That Debling fellow. He's a little odd, is he not?
Absolutely reaching for any reason that Pen shouldn't like Lord Debling. This scene is really understated, I think, but I'm really glad that the writers decided to include it. I think it's important for Colin to literally see Penelope looking first at him and then turn her back on him and start walking towards Lord Debling. It just really drives in the nail of the fact that she is choosing to be with another man. I think seeing her walking towards Lord Debling and away from him just shakes him more than he could possibly believe, and it also plays into the fact that he goes absolutely feral at the end of the episode and nearly kisses her in front of everybody.
Because he gathered the courage to ask.
I'm so glad that they had this conversation.
I hope she is as well.
She's literally breathless from the realization and so happy. He is all but pouncing on her at this point, all feeling, no logic. That look. And right here you can tell it hurts him so much to look, and yet he Cannot stop. When Debling first approaches them, you can see that Colin is obviously not expecting the interruption, and this is the first time, or one of the few at least, that we see Colin looking at Lord Debling directly. All other times Colin and Lord Debling are around each other, whether that be in the same room or just the same vicinity, Colin is either looking longingly at Pen or pretending that Debling doesn't even exist, which is absolutely comical.
Like this fictional gentleman, ask for the young lady's hand.
I was already a Lord Debling stan, and I feel like it's totally fine to be both a Lord Debling and a Colin stan, by the way. I can like them both for different reasons. But this scene made me almost wish that Penelope would end up with him. The way that he used her love and her passion for books, romance books specifically, to navigate the conversation about how he might ask for her hand in marriage was so romantic and so well written. Penelope was just off feeling butterflies with Lord Debling, and on the flip side, here we have Colin completely and utterly checked out of his rake persona.
It is only a shame.
He's frustrated. He doesn't want to hear any more advice.
Maybe getting a proposal.
But the moment Pen's name is mentioned,
I do hope you feel better.
that little smile at the end, it's like Violet saying, "Stop being dumb, go get your woman. I have done everything I possibly could." Violet knows her children so well, and the way that she derailed Colin's anger was perfectly in tune with his character and in tune with what he perhaps didn't realize he needed to hear in that moment, but he realizes after the fact he absolutely did. Violet being proud of Colin's sensitivity and expressing it to him in such a kind, non-condescending manner made me tear up. Also, the line about not letting his armor rest and set in to the point where it can never be removed was absolute poetry, and I think probably one of the most well-written lines in the series yet, in my humble opinion.
I shall leave you to it.
Like I mentioned before, Colin hardly ever looks at Lord Debling directly, and this scene definitely is no exception. He is like staring, focusing solely on Pen, and when Lord Debling finally does walk away, Colin sends a little quick glare in his direction, which I find hilarious and definitely swoon-worthy.
Penelope,
It's so romantic, him running after her.
please. Let me in.
What do you want?
Did Lord Debling propose?
The carriage scene is beautiful for so many different reasons, but one of the main reasons I think is the way that it starts. Colin doesn't just barge into the carriage, he waits for Pen's express permission before entering, and even when he does enter, he waits for her to start talking first, instead of just overwhelming her with questions before she's ready. This is a man who knows how to ask for consent, and I absolutely love to see it.
It is my business because I care about you.
I love that line so much.
He is just not right for you, Pen.
He did not propose.
Literally grasping at straws at this point. Colin is just so forthright with his words, and it's really refreshing to watch and to hear because I personally got a little used to our male leads fighting, admitting their feelings every chance they got in the last 2 seasons.
I cannot. Because
He's deciding if he wants to be truthful with her.
what if I did have feelings for you?
Hearing that line for the first time, if I could go back and watch it again, what I wouldn't give. I am obsessed with the shots of Colin's face here. Even though he's not talking, you can literally see the wheels turning in his head as he's deciding to come forth and admit his feelings for Penelope. I thought it was so well done, and you can see the moment on his face when he decides, screw it. I am tired of tiptoeing around and I'm just going to say it.
And in fact, preferring sleep because that is where I might find you.
That is the single-handed most romantic line I think I've ever heard.
Will not, do not want to give up.
Please.
Let's go, Pitbull. This confession absolutely rocks my world. I don't think there's a better way to put it. Feelings like dreaming of you when I'm asleep, and in fact preferring sleep because that is where I might find you. Those are the kinds of lines that you read in a book and think to yourself, man, that would come out so cheesy in real life. But Luke absolutely nailed it.
Colin, we are friends.
Yes, baby. Forgive me. I do not know what I was thinking.
Aside from the fact that Colin's heart visibly stops in that moment, like we can literally see his heart start to crack, I love the fact that he said, "Forgive me, I do not know what I was thinking," instead of "Forgive me, I shouldn't have said that." It shows that he did absolutely mean to say it, does not regret putting himself out there like that, but is still heartbroken by Penelope's response.
So much more.
Let's go! Every time, man, it kills me every time. His little smile right there, ugh.
Colin, we're at your house.
Could the carriage driver not keep on driving?
That is the cutest thing ever. And they're laughing together. Oh my gosh. When they come to a stop, the man is so dazed and lost in her. He looks around like someone plucked him straight from heaven back to reality, and he has no idea how he got there, nor does he want to be back. And the shared laughter between them, it just felt so right to me because of course they're friends. They're going to laugh about this kind of situation. That look is what authors mean when they say his eyes darkened.
What are you doing?
That is the kind of aftercare I never knew I needed to see until I saw this scene. And right there, he's decided, yep, he's going to ask her to marry him.
Are you going to marry me or not?
It is just perfect. It's perfect. And oh my god, I cannot wait for part 2. That line could have come off wrong coming from anyone else or in any different way, but Luke makes it sound so playful yet so sincere at the same time, and it was perfect. That's all I can say. It was truly perfect. So for the carriage scene overall, it felt like I could hear the characters' inner thoughts through the acting alone. I could damn near see the words straight out of a steamy, passionate, heartfelt scene out of a romance novel. I have never seen someone's eyes glaze over the way Colin's did when Pen ran her fingers through his hair. That moment also feels so satisfying to me because throughout the show, we're shown that Colin is a generally happy guy, but especially in episodes 3 and 4 of season 3, he was so serious, so pensive and jealous, and just obviously in pain watching Penelope slowly slip through his fingers. The carriage scene is the first time that we've seen Colin smile, like really and truly smile in what feels like forever. It lights up his entire face, it lights up his eyes, and Pen's answering little smile before they start kissing again just makes the moment that much sweeter. Before, when Colin was trying to uphold his rake persona, it was all about him, all about his pleasure, but in this scene, it's all about Pen's pleasure. Colin is definitely a generous and giving lover, and he just wasn't able to truly express that until now. Can we also just talk about the fact that they were fully clothed? And in my humble opinion, had more passion and chemistry than a lot of fully naked scenes that I've seen in media. And I know that the fully naked scenes are coming in part 2. Don't know how they could really top the carriage scene, but I am excited to see it all the same. Throughout the majority of the scene, Colin literally acts like a man starved, and it really makes the previous scenes of him with the prostitutes pale in comparison. This is love. This is desire, as he now knows he most wants to experience it. And to see Colin fully embrace it to his heart's content in this scene was an absolutely magical thing.